Hello everybody, this is Rebecca Jane. Welcome to this 30-minute practice. Just to let you know that I do teach live online yoga classes. So if you're interested, you'd like to have a live class with me, you could look up above for my website. You can look at my website or below in the link. Thank you so much. So this practice is focusing on dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching is reminds me of kind of like the Tin Man, when you have to when he needs that oil to lubricate him so he can move. Dynamic stretching is when we move. It's more like in yoga when we do our sun salutations, when we do cats and cows. So it's going from one posture to another easily, fluidly. Okay. Dynamic stretching is recommended for if you're going for a run, or if you're in some type of playing a sport. You do dynamic, not the passive stretching where you hold stretches for a while. That's after the fact, but more dynamic is important for that. What dynamic stretching does for us, it increases the mobility of our joints. It keeps us, just like the Tin Man, lubricated so that we can move easier. If we don't stretch in that way ever, or very rarely, you will notice that you're stiff a good portion of the time, or especially if you're sitting for long periods of time. So dynamic stretching is important, as is passive, but this practice is about dynamic, and I'm going to throw in some passive so you can understand the difference. Okay. I have 2 blocks here because they might help with some of the stretching we're going to do if you can't touch the ground comfortably, or just to add something a little extra to if you're used to touching the ground, but yet you want to kind of challenge yourself in a different way. Sometimes the blocks are really helpful. Okay, so we're going to start with sitting. Let me just get my clock on so I don't. Okay, so we're going to sit like this. I've made a decision. I'm going to take my block and sit on a block so I can bring my hips a little higher. When we're sitting for a little while, it's best to have the knees lower than the hips. So a block might be handy, or a blanket, but rolled up a little bit more cushion. Let's close the eyes. Let's sit up nice and tall. As we sit, you might feel pretty stiff, depending on whether you're, in the mornings we feel pretty stiff because we've just rolled out of bed. We haven't moved. So you'll notice, I want you to bring your awareness into how your body feels right now, and then we'll compare it to after we're done. Bring your head over your pelvis. Let your shoulders soften down. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Another inhale. So we're creating a rhythm using the breath to help us kind of get into that rhythm, just like we have our own internal music, which is our breath. And we're going to open up the eyes if they're closed, come in through cats and cows, seated cats and cows. So just let yourself round through the spine and then lift up through the chest. I'm going to turn around so you can actually see what this might look like. So you're rounding the spine, and then you're lifting up through the chest. So this is a dynamic stretch that we do in a lot of our poses throughout the yoga classes. And you'll see as we go through this one how many times we replicate these two moves. Let's take a few more, waking up the body. One more set and then come up nice and tall. So already you might be feeling a little bit more awake. Muscles are warming up. And then we're going to do some Sufi circles. So lean forward, circle the body to the right, back and around. Lubricating those joints. Think about how often people don't stretch out. You might get up and do a few little walks, and that's a way of stretching. That's reverse. You might, I don't know, whatever it might be that you do, but it's not on a regular basis, and this needs to happen more frequently than we think we should, right? Because our bodies don't move as they have in the past. Nowadays, we move less. Let's come up nice and tall. Let's start to feel the body's swaying and rhythm, just like we're dancing. We're going out dancing. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Take the left hand outside your left hip, place it on the ground, and stretch to the left. So we've done this before. But now I want you to take your right arm and left arm and circle it forward all the way around to the right. Right hand lands and left arm stretches to the right. Let's do this again. So take both hands, circle them forward, come over to the left, and then stretch over to the left. And then the same thing. I'm going to come off of my block now. And circle around, right hand outside the right hip, stretch to the right. And you could go at the pace that works for you. Feeling into the body's shape and also the sorenesses that you might have. Not that that's a word, but the tightness. All these things that you will notice when you do these stretches. One more time, circle around, stretch to the right, and then come up nice and tall. And then come on to hands and knees. You can curl the toes under here or keep the toes flat on the ground. Stretch through the arms. This is an active child's pose. Active meaning that the arms are stretching forward, elbows off the ground. And in this, you're getting into the soles of the feet. If you're curled under, you can sway your hips a little bit if that feels good for your hips. And we're going to take one more deep breath in and then just flatten out the tops of the feet. And then let's settle into let the elbows soften down into a passive child's pose. And breathe into the back body, inhaling. And exhaling. And then coming up to all fours. Wrist issue people, feel free to come onto forearms. Otherwise, stay with straight arms. Let's do a few cats and cows. So cats and cows, this is the original traditional cat and cow that has been around for a long time. Cat and cow. So you you let your tailbone tilt up, you let your belly soften, and then you round the spine, draw the tummy muscles in. Dynamic stretching. And then coming back to neutral, curl the toes under, take a deep breath in, sit back towards your heels as if you're about to leap forward. Take an inhale and then exhale, lift up, downward facing dog. Shake your head no, shake your head yes. And let's bend the knees as if you're going to leap again. And then straighten the legs by pushing the feet into the ground, lifting the hips. Some of us, our legs will not straighten fully, and if you have back issues, that's exactly what I don't want you to do. But if you can, you do. And so we're bending and straightening. This is dynamic stretching. So we're getting into the joints, into the back of the knees themselves. Very complicated part of our body are the knees. That's why when we have problems, it's a difficult place to heal. Let's do one more bend to the knees and then straighten. And then lift tailbone up, and let's pause here in your passive downward facing stretch. So as you can see, we like to first do dynamic to the start and then get into our passive stretches. Breathing in and breathing out. Let's inhale into plank. Let's do a vinyasa. Come into the plank, knees down or up, lower down, chaturanga. And then inhale into your baby cobra or higher cobra. Baby cobra is where you're barely lifting your chest off the ground. Lift your chest forward. You can do this on forearms in Sphinx. And then lift back up through into child. Just take a pause here. My wrists happen to be very tired from a class yesterday. And I'm going to take you through a few childs because I need to give my wrists a little break. Come up into downward facing dog. Now from here, bring your feet closer together. Right leg reaches up behind you. Stretch through that right leg and then step right foot to right thumb. Lower your left knee down. You can always pad it up if you need by taking your mat and turn it over. This is where you might like your blocks. Lift your hips forward. Lift your chest forward. So you're in this shape this is a passive stretch. So I want you to take your left hip forward, right hip back. Let me see. We want to even out the hips. So the left hip might come a little forward, the right hip a little back, depending on where your hips are. And we're pausing here, and then we're going to start dynamic stretching. I'll take the blocks with me and fold over that right leg. Dig your right heel into the ground, toes pointing up. And then come back into your lunge and go back and forth. Getting into your hip joints. So you're inhaling into that cow stretch. Lift your heart forward. And exhale, fold over that right leg. And this is a cat stretch. Can you see cats and cows? If you feel pretty stiff, it's very normal. Even if you do yoga all the time, stiffening is natural for the body. Rebend that right knee and then move the blocks away, step back, downward facing dog. Take a pause here and just notice the difference between the sides. The right leg might be very clearly more stretched out than the left. If you wish to add a vinyasa here or child's pose or stay in downward facing dog, feel free. We can do vinyasa if you'd like.
meeting in child's pose, coming into your child's pose again. See if the toes can stay curled under so we can continuously be working on these feet. Then come up to all fours. Step up, downward facing dog. Take an inhale, left leg lifts. Step left foot to left thumb. First adjust the feet, then lower that right knee down. If you need to pad up that right knee, do so. You could take your blocks, and we begin in a low runner's lunge. So you're lifting your chest forward, passive stretch. Pull your left hip slightly back, right hip slightly forward. Inhaling and exhaling. And then fold over your left leg. So what are the benefits of passive stretching? And we're going to go into this dynamic. Passive, we can now, when you hold stretches, you can get into the deeper structure of your muscles, into the fascia, which is the connective tissue. So the combination of dynamic and passive is really important for keeping yourself flexible, youthful. So you go at the pace that works for you. No rushing here. And let's finish that last one back into your low lunge. Step back, downward facing dog. If you'd like vinyasa, just follow me, or else stay where you are, or we'll meet in child's pose. And then in child's pose, stretch again. Notice how more flexible those feet are, how easier this is. And then come up to all fours. Let's exhale, downward facing dog. Let's bring the legs closer together. Right leg reaches to the sky again. As if someone has a foot in their hands and they're pulling your leg up. Take an inhale and exhale, step right foot to right thumb. This time we're going to lift up into a high lunge. Place your hands on your hips. Make sure the feet are at the right distance forward and width, length and width. Once you've found that, reach arms up to the sky so that you're feeling stable. As you lift up, I want you to kind of lift up and straighten that front leg, and then straight-ish your front leg. It not fully straight. And then just rebend. Then lift. This time we're going to take an inhale, lift, and we're going to bring the arms out to the right, twist. Let that right arm drop down next to your right side. Lift back up. Lift up nice and tall. Take an inhale. Exhale, bend your front leg. Twist to the right. Yes, this is not so easy. Right arm sweeps down next to your right side. Lift back up. And this time you're going to come all the way down, fold over that front leg. Blocks might be important here. You could walk your back foot in a little closer, or you can keep it where it was. It's just a little bit more of a stretch in the back, in your ankle. Once you're in your pyramid, so you might need to bend that right knee, no matter what. But some of us can straighten, and I want us to hold this for a moment. This is a passive stretch, so you have a few breaths, a minute or so to kind of check in with your body. And then take your left hip forward, right hip back, so you're adjusting it. Now we can add on a little bit more of I'm going to take my blocks away from here. But for some of us, you want blocks. Hands come up, come onto your fingertips or hands on your shins if you don't have blocks. Lift up halfway. So that means your chest has extended forward, and then exhale, fold over your right leg, look back. Inhale, looking forward. Exhaling, folding. Inhaling forward, dynamic for the spine. Passive stretch for the legs. Nothing's happening in the legs, just the upper body. And then one more time, inhale halfway, and then place the hands on the ground, step back, downward facing dog. Notice difference between the legs. If you want to do a vinyasa, feel free. I'm going to stay in downward facing dog. Breathing in and breathing out. So we all meet. Let's come back into a child's pose. Get a nice stretch again. And then come up to all fours and downward facing dog. So bring your legs closer together. This time left leg lifts to the sky. Stretch, 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 stretch. And then left foot to left thumb. Open up that back foot a little bit. We're in this high lunge and you're going to eventually lift up and hands come to your hips. And adjust the feet. Just get yourself. And a little bounce here. Be careful, a little bouncing. This is called ballistic stretching when you bounce. We'll talk about that another time. But we're doing a little bit of a ballistic type of stretching. And then, just for this second. Then once you've found your footing, inhale, reach the arms up. As you lift up, I want you to just gently straighten your front leg just a little bit, not completely. And then re-bend. And then straighten. Inhale and exhale, bend. So here we are, dynamic. One more time, inhale, stretch, lift, and then spin your arms to the left and go deep into your stretch, your lunge. Left arm sweeps down and up. Lifting up, inhale. Then exhale, opening up to the left. And then float that left arm forward and up. Lifting up. I'm not sure if I did 3 on the other side, but we'll do 3 on this side. Why not? I think we only did 2. Lift up nice and tall. Then lower the hands to the ground. Feel free to use blocks or not. Walk your back foot in a little bit closer to seal that back foot to the ground, or keep it long behind you. And pause here for a moment. Breathing deeply, inhale. And then as you exhale, pull your left hip back, right hip forward. So passive stretches, like I said before, give you an opportunity to kind of check in with the way your body is feeling, whether you need to make adjustments. Now I want you to come up halfway, moving into more dynamic stretching, folding over that left leg. Upper body dynamic stretching. So inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. So the more passive stretches we do, the achier we become. Believe it or not, you think, well, you feel more of the dynamic, but actually the holding of the stretches is much, because it goes deeper into places that usually don't get stretched. You feel it more. Lower the hands to the ground. It means there's a lot going on that we don't know behind the scenes. Step back, downward facing dog. Come onto your knees and sit back into a child's pose. This time the feet are flat. Make a pillow with your arms. And take some deep breaths in. Maintain that rhythm of that breath. And then gently lift yourself back up. Come onto your right hip. That isn't a stretch in itself. A child's pose is a nice back body stretch. You could spend loads of time comfortably in that shape. Let's extend our legs into a seated forward fold. You can either have blocks here or have fingertips on the ground, depending on your flexibility. Bent knees, especially if you have that back issue or your hamstrings are tight. I want you to lift up, just like you did in the cow stretch. Lift up halfway, extend through the spine, and then fold over. So we're doing a few dynamic stretches. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, lift. Create a rhythm, just like we did when we were in the pyramid that just a moment ago. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, lower down. Now this time we're going to inhale halfway, extend through the spine, and then we're going to settle into our forward bend, our passive stretch. Make note of little adjustments you need to make in your body. Breathing into those tight spots. So if you want to become more flexible, these two major types of stretches are what will help you. And especially with more passive. Let's come up nice and tall. Let's slowly ease ourselves onto our backs. And then stretch through the entire length of the body. Oh, how good this feels. Hug your knees into your chest. And then open the legs into happy baby. Take your feet inside or outside the feet. So laying on your back, coming into your happy baby. You can rock from side to side. And then hug your knees into your chest and extend left foot to left corner, right to right. Wiggle around a little bit until finally your body melts into the mat, bone by bone, skin by skin, muscle by muscle. And staying where you are or coming up into your cross-legged seat. Taking this opportunity to compare. Noticing how you feel now compared to how you felt when you first sat down. For many, it's night and day. It's a wow moment. And for some, it's very subtle. But nevertheless, there's a change, there's a shift. Stretching, not just one way, but in various ways, is essential to our to maintaining our youthfulness, no matter what age we are, even if we're young, even if we're young adults, teenagers. It's the essential part of life.
especially now that we move less. So as I bring my hands in front of my heart to seal this practice, thank you so much for being here with me. If you enjoy these classes, just to remind you, I do teach live online yoga. So you can look above for the website or below in the link. Thank you so much. Namaste.